The Lord be with you.
And with your spirit.
A reading from the Holy Gospel according to Matthew.
Glory to you.
Filled with awe and great joy, the woman came quickly away from the tomb and ran to tell the disciples. And there coming to meet them was Jesus. "Greetings," he said. And the woman came up to him and falling down before him, clasped his feet. And Jesus said to them, "Do not be afraid. Go and tell my brothers that they must leave for Galilee. They will see me there." And while they were on their way, some of the guards went off into the city to tell the chief priests all that had happened. These held a meeting with the elders, and after some discussion, handed a considerable sum of money to the soldiers with these instructions: "This is what you must say. His disciples came during the night and stole him away while we were asleep. And should the governor come to hear of this, we undertake to put things right with him ourselves and to see that you do not get into trouble." The soldiers took the money and carried out the instructions, and to this day, that is the story among the Jews. The Gospel of the Lord.
Praise to you, Lord Jesus Christ.
The resurrection is a matter of faith. And from the beginning, the Gospel puts that there are people who conspired against the resurrection. The soldiers who chose to concoct a story to take some money as a bribe and to spread a different story, that he was stolen from the tomb. And here we have the drama of the resurrection beginning on this first day after the resurrection. That there are those who believe the resurrection never took place, and there are those who saw what happened and who conspired against it. And there are those who saw it and didn't quite believe, and there are those who saw it and actually believed immediately. And these are the four groups we'll be working with over the next while. If a Jewish soldier fell asleep if a Roman soldier fell asleep on guard, he was put to death. And it is a crime that is that serious. He would be put to death. And so the fact that none of them were put to death with a tale like that suggests that somebody fixed the story so that the governor didn't execute the command that should have been executed if a soldier says to his superior that he fell asleep on the job. So let's just start there and leave that aside for a moment. The more powerful thing that we have on that first reading is that we simply just cannot explain how it is possible for Peter, who ran away from the crucifixion, who denied Jesus because he was so terribly afraid, who got into such a muddle so many times in his life. How is it possible that this same Peter emerges now as this towering figure of faith, of wisdom, and of learning within a 40-day period? So we last met Peter and with the cock crowing. And every time a cock crow and Peter hear that, my boys start to tremble. Because Jesus told him, before the cock crow 3 times, you're going to deny me. He says, stop that cock from crowing because I don't want to deny him again. So Peter, we last saw him as someone who thought he was noble, thought that he was virtuous, thought he had character, and he found out he had none of these things. That's the last time we meet Peter in this whole drama of the crucifixion. And the next time that we're meeting him here on Easter Monday is at Pentecost, which is 6 weeks later, where Peter now becomes this towering figure who is proclaiming the resurrection fearlessly, with incredible wisdom. So he's quoting both from the Old Testament, many sources. He's quoting from Psalm 110. He's quoting from the psalm that we have of today, Psalm 15. He's quoting from several psalms to show that the Christ is the son of David, and that the prophecy to David, that David's empire and legacy will remain forever, that this is being fulfilled by Jesus. It couldn't be David because David is dead. It is Jesus who has come back from the dead as son of David that is the rightful heir and fulfillment of the prophecies of David. Now that's a complex piece of theology. It's a very complex piece of theology. And we have to remember that Peter is a fisherman. He's a fisherman. He wasn't a man who grew up schooled in the law, schooled in the Torah, schooled in the tradition. He's a fisherman. He would have gone to synagogue. He would have been a religious man. He would have been involved in the temple activities. But he's a fisherman. And Peter emerges at the end of Pentecost, on Pentecost Day, with this sophisticated theological explanation, with incredible courage and boldness, with character and with virtue, and with everything that he thought he had before the crucifixion, he now has it at Pentecost. And somebody has to explain how this transformation takes place. And that's the drama of the upper room. That is the drama of the upper room. And that's where, you know where we are, huh? You know we're not in a desert anymore. You know we've gone to the upper room. That's the drama of the upper room. And it is only by a meditation on the upper room that we will start to understand how the disciples moved from where we left them in the crucifixion to where they emerge after Pentecost. And I'm proposing that this upper room experience, which is pivotal to the early church, that allows the disciples to emerge out of the upper room with knowledge, with wisdom, understanding, but with courage and with a commitment to Jesus Christ that is second to none, to the point where they are now ready to face death for him. Now, from human logic, this makes no sense. Because even if they stole the body, and even if they did a set a ratchet fee, you cannot explain how they turned to be courageous, how they turned to be wise, how they turned to be fearless, and how they turned to be these outstanding men of God. How did that happen? If it was a ratchet fee in the first place, how did they emerge thereafter? That is not explainable in terms of human character. Characters don't become more virtuous when they do unvirtuous things. They become less virtuous. Peter becomes more virtuous. And so we have this enigma. And this enigma is the enigma of the upper room. And this is where we are going to be over the next while. But permit me just to go to the gospel for a while, because in the gospel, the women were filled with awe and great joy when they saw the empty tomb. And it says, and there coming to meet them was Jesus. Greetings, he said. And the woman, falling down before him, clasped his feet. That's the posture of worship. One interpretation of the text says, and they worshipped him. They understood, without understanding, that this is not the man who was crucified, although he was, that there was something of a new character to this one that elicited a different reaction than they would have had before the crucifixion. Because before, they might have hugged him. They didn't have coronavirus in those days. Before, they might have come up to him to touch him. They might have held on to him to make sure it was really him. But it doesn't explain why they do the posture of worship. Because something in them understands that this is not just man, this is God. And it is only God you worship. And they would have known the first commandment. The Lord your God is one, and you must worship him and him alone. They worship Jesus. because they believe he is the one true God. And in worshiping him, we now have a whole new dispensation beginning that we will discover in the upper room. That the humanity of Jesus, which is absolutely real, is now revealed and revealing the divinity of Jesus, which is also absolutely real. And this is the enigma of the resurrection and of the mystery of who Jesus is and the identity of Jesus that we've been playing with from the very beginning of the gospel. Who do you say I am? And now the woman answered the question. We believe you are God. And they worship him. Peter says, I believe he is the son of David. And he makes him an ancestor and the fulfillment of the prophet and the prophecy about David, and he becomes the new David. So in our text already, we have Jesus as God and Jesus as the new David, whose dynasty will last forever and whose throne will have no end, and who will bring true justice to the nations. We have these two big identities of Jesus emerging through our readings. And the question that you have to answer now is, who do you think Jesus is? How do you see Jesus? Do you see him as God and worship him? Do you see him as the one of whom the prophet spoke, the descendant of David, the one who is going to have an eternal dynasty that will last forever, that all peoples and seasons and times will come under his domain? How do you see Jesus? And I'm asking you to simply step back from your thinking about Jesus, step back from your presumptions, step back from even what you might think you already know, so that together we may discover the identity of Jesus in deeper and deeper ways over this next period as we will be spending in the upper room. Come and let us journey now to the upper room, where we will be nourished in faith, fed fine wheat and rich wine, and where we will come to the identity of Jesus. But more than that, at the end of Pentecost, to the mission of the church.